It's very important to understand who is responsible for what in the application process, because a lot of the things that are essential components of your application are actually not up to you at all or are on somebody else's timeline entirely. And the reason that we've separated things between things that are up to you and things that depend on other people is because the things that depend on other people, typically it's not so much content that's a problem, it's time. Think about this. If you submit a request for a transcript to your undergraduate school today, some schools have a month-long waiting list. And if you don't take care of these things immediately, as soon as you know at the beginning of the summer that you're going to need this, you may be submitting your application late or not get it considered until very late in the game because of a simple time scheduling oversight. Transcripts are dependent on your undergraduate or graduate organizations and schools. The letters of recommendation are completely on somebody else's timeline. Even though you may have some control over their content, they're on somebody else's timeline entirely. Dean certificates, if you know what those are, some schools require them. They actually need to go through the registrar's office, or in some cases the office of the dean, and they get hundreds of requests for these every year. And they may take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month and a half to even get it out the door. And the LSDAS report is very much up to someone else, in this case, law services. And at the very minimum, they take 2 weeks to process everything. That's why we recommend if you're going to submit anything to LSDAS, do it 4 to 6 weeks from when you know they need to be in, and ideally try to do it 3 months in advance, because then you give yourself time to fix things that might go wrong or to fix things that you might not initially see as problems, but do turn up to be problems. Now, as far as the personal statement, the supplemental essays, the addenda, and the resume go, I can't stress enough the importance of beginning to work on these things early. You need to give yourself time. You don't want to be working on your personal statement 3 days before the application is due. Look, you're not doing yourself a favor at all. You're actually doing yourself a disservice by doing this. You want to let things marinate. One of the most valuable pieces of advice I can give you is when you're writing your personal statement, write your draft and then walk away for a week. And then come back to it. And then once you've done revisions, walk away again, because it's only when you separate yourself from what you're writing that you can really see the effect it has. You can see it with fresh eyes. The same thing happens with supplemental essays, with addenda, and with resumes. Look at the line that's bolded in the middle of the screen. It says your application won't be considered until it is complete. And complete is everything on that screen. Personal statements, supplemental essays, addenda, resume, transcripts, letters of recommendation, everything. This isn't like college. In college, sometimes an application will be considered piecemeal as it comes in. They'll wait for your SAT scores. They'll wait for your grades. There's some mid-year school report. Things get considered as they come in. That's because most colleges don't work on rolling admissions. Law schools do work on rolling admissions, which means people that are complete first get first dibs. People that get complete first get assigned first, get their letters first, get their notifications first. And if your application is not complete, it doesn't matter that everything but one thing is sitting there. It's going to sit there gathering dust until everything is in there. Don't leave things to the last minute, and always, always, always follow up. Don't assume that just because you've handed something off to someone that they're going to do it. It is your responsibility to follow up on every single aspect of your application. After all, this application only affects you, not them. If they don't follow up, it doesn't really do anything to them or for them.
Yeah, and if you think about what's happening with these applications, there's more or less a big, long checklist. And as each item comes in, they just check it off. But they don't send it on until every single thing is checked off. And so you don't have the luxury of saying, oh, they're reading my essay right now. No, because maybe you send in a few things and then you decide in the middle of the process, I don't want to go to law school. I want to go to business school instead. They don't want to waste their time. So they don't look at you until everything is in. So that's one of the big lessons. Sometimes people think, well, I'm just waiting for one more thing. I'm sure they're looking at it. No, they're not. They won't be looking at it until that last thing is there. So that really kind of underscores the idea that Anne was talking about. Start early. You don't want to have to be furiously working on your personal statement, which is going to have a huge impact on what law school you get into the night before that it is actually due. You need to have this come out like a very well-written, well-reasoned, well-thought-out piece of writing. And the same goes for everything else in your essay. So one of the things that we've really tried to do here is to give you an overview of the different elements that are actually present in your application folder. So on Anne's behalf, I would like to go ahead and say thanks so much for listening. We hope that you enjoyed it and you found it useful.